Hello, 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 and welcome to another episode of the Happiness Retreat. I'm your host, Kimberly Treves, and today we have the good fortune to be in conversation with my dear friend and colleague, the beautiful and multi-talented Joanna Chodorowska, who is a holistic nutritionist, a pain and inflammation expert, an author, a speaker, and the founder of Nutrition in Motion. Joanna helps her clients to explore their response to stress and emotional injury from childhood, which contribute to their pain and ill health. Hello, Joanna, and thank you so much for taking time to be with us today.
Well, thank you, Kimberly, for inviting me to be a part of this. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, this conversation is going to be great.
Yeah.
As this conversation is all about spirituality, the soul, and becoming a master of your own energy, I am so happy that you are here with us today to share with us how nutrition is a vehicle for transformation. So, Joanna, can you please tell us a little bit about your background, your education, and what prompted you to become so interested in all things nutrition?
Well, it all goes back about 21 years ago. I was diagnosed with adrenal exhaustion. And this was, not a common thing that most people knew. Most people are more aware of chronic fatigue, but I was already seeing a holistic doctor for some other issue. And 5 months after my first Ironman triathlon event, I was tired just walking to the mailbox and back. And I had all sorts of other things going on that I just was like, hey, doc, I got a problem. What's going on? And when I got that diagnosis, that actually wasn't the thing that got me into nutrition. What I actually saw a medical intuitive, and I don't think I've shared this with you before, but I saw a medical intuitive, and she says to me, "You look like a shell of a person." What? Who? Wait, are you talking to me? And it's like, wait, here I am, 33, I think I was
You're
at
a
the time.
triathlete, for goodness gracious sake.
Come on. What do you mean I look like I like the Walking Dead, But come to think of it, I really was. I was actually with those blinders on, so focused on success that that's all I did. And the only way that I knew how to deal with stress was to go ride my bike, go run, go, do some kind of sporting activity, because that's the place where I felt free. That's where that endorphin high it's a great thing, better than cocaine, right? But it is something that is the only thing that I knew how to deal with my stressors, and I had plenty of them going on. That I even had the Ironman as a stressor because it was just leading me down that path to adrenal exhaustion. And so it was the doctor plus the nutritionist that I had that told me about juicing, told me about, go read this book because this is how you'll know what adrenal exhaustion is about. And sure enough, the more I found out about what it was, the more I was like, oh, let me backtrack here. Stress, yeah, I got emotional stress, yeah. Physical stress, yeah, I got that. Mental stress, yeah, I got that. And then the foods that I was eating weren't helping me in any way, shape, or form, because as you well know, processed food isn't really nutrient dense. And I was basically living on Cliff Bars and coffee because I got to go do my next workout.
Right.
So I ended up in this place of complete depletion and literally 70% depleted in my nutrients. I couldn't remember things. I could start tasks, couldn't finish them. I had sugar cravings. I had dysbiosis. I had my monthly cycle was actually non-existent. And that is actually what precipitated my phone call to the doctor. I'm like, okay, this is now 3 months without my monthly cycle. Something's going on. And it was just like, that was just the unraveling of all the layers of stuff that my body was trying to tell me that I completely ignored because I was in tunnel vision. So nutrition was such a huge part of me learning that the body can heal itself given the right tools, and that nutrition was the foundation of it.
Wow. So I love how you pointed out that you had many signs from your body previous to that breakdown of your cycle, and finally something caught your attention.
Yeah, like 4 months of not having your cycle. Well, like, wait, that should actually cause some concern. But it wasn't until 4 months that I was like, Doc, I think I got a problem.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had more. That's when I had had enough. But I didn't realize that there were all these other signs, and God was trying to get my attention. My body was trying to get my attention, and I was like, I'm too busy. I gotta go run. I gotta go deal with, my stressors. I gotta go ride my bike. No longer.
Yeah. Let's just briefly touch on the sugar cravings because as any woman can relate to that, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Help us understand sugar cravings from all like the mental, the emotional, the physical. Help us understand that.
So there's from this physical standpoint, sugar will spike the blood sugar. So when you get that first rush of sugar in, and we're not talking just about fruit, or you eat a potato or some kind of a root vegetable. Those are natural sugars, which because they're natural sugars in their natural form, they also have fiber that slow down the absorption of some of that sugar. So then it's not a spike, it's just a gradual increase. But when you're taking in sugar, white sugar, organic sugar, it doesn't matter what kind of sugar, it spikes the blood sugar. And that spike, you all of a sudden were like, oh, I feel awesome. I've got this high, and it literally acts like cocaine on your brain as well. And there are studies that actually say that white sugar is like cocaine to your brain. So it's got a physical and a psychological response going on combined. So you feel really great. You get all this energy, and then boom, you get a crash. So when you get that crash of the blood sugar, because the body is literally processing that sugar really quickly, and uh, sends out the insulin to utilize it, and it utilizes it pretty quickly, and so you get that crash. You're tired, you're cranky, you're irritable, and you're like, ooh, where's the next cookie? Ooh, oh, you got candy in your dish? I'm gonna get some candy. And so it ends up being just that simple as, if we can manage those blood sugar swings and make it gradual instead of up and down, then those sugar cravings will minimize or lessen significantly.
Okay.
Now, when we talk about some of the emotional things, though, the emotional aspect, and I think the most popular one with sugar, is what else is sweet in your life at that time or in that moment. And sometimes you need something. You're so stressed and you're so frustrated and so overwhelmed that the sugar is just the temporary fix for the emotional challenge that you're going through, and you just don't know how to deal with it. So I'm going to reach for that thing, and I'm going to console myself with something sweet.
Hmm. Yeah, been there, done that.
No, we all have. We all have. Trust me. When you live on Cliff Bars and coffee, you're living on caffeine and that sugar high. You
Yeah.
know. And the only thing that I really wanted was actually the natural endorphin high. So then I would go train and go. I would go train for an hour or two just to get myself calmed down.
Right. Right. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about how, um when I had a sugar craving, I thought it was my body craving the sugar, but clearly
It
could
may not
be
be.
sorry?
It may not be.
Right, it could be the emotional part. So, let's look at that part. How do emotions affect our food choices?
Food is something that we often use as comfort. And I have learned through, working with clients for over 18 years, plus my own little journey, that those emotional hurdles that we have are actually aspects of self that we have shut down or haven't embraced. We've been criticized in childhood for being our playful selves, or for being silly, or for being, irresponsible, or, let's call lazy as another one, or, you're being stupid for following your dreams. You can't make money doing that. So we end up suppressing those things. And so we have these emotions that haven't been processed. And sometimes it's the criticism, sometimes it's the, the fear of failure, sometimes it's the overwhelm, like, oh my God, I don't even know where to begin. And so the food ends up being the thing that we use to give ourselves that temporary self-love. At least that's what we think it is. We think of it as self-love, but it's our coping mechanism. It is simply just our coping mechanism. And what I do with my clients is to help them actually work through the situation that is stressing them out, whether it's emotionally or spiritually or physically, so that they can see a different option. I don't give them like, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. I help them connect to their own internal compass, because internally that's where these emotions are lying, and it's internally connecting with our internal wisdom and our intuition and loving all those aspects of self, because that's what makes us us. And if I can help you reframe the situation with a different viewpoint, you may not get so stressed about it. And so therefore the food is no longer a source of comfort, because you don't need that comfort from that source.
Right.
It's kind
So
of cyclical, isn't it?
it sure is. So here's the thing, you're a child and you have an experience, and from that experience, you deduce in your childhood mind whatever you deduce. And most of the times, because it's a criticism from a parent or a teacher or a classmate made fun of you. I mean, we're talking like this happened way, way, way back. Now we have attached emotion and
Right.
a belief that is, it's not the truth, but it's our fact. It becomes our fact, right?
It's our fact that we build upon.
Right. And then now as an adult, we view ourselves through that lens.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so much happens in those formative years, as they call it, between the ages of, 0 and 5.
Mhm.
And sometimes even things happen in the womb, because we're intuiting what our mothers are feeling and what they're going through. So sometimes that even comes into play as well. But those emotions, those experiences, those become our beliefs. That's the story that we tell ourselves. And those emotional traumas get stuck in our amygdala, and our ego keeps trying to protect us from re-experiencing the trauma. And anytime we try something different, there's a part that says, oh no, this is your story, let's prove that that's true. So you may often re-experience the same thing. See, I was right. That is true. I'm not worthy of love. That's why, I can't, this guy breaks up with me. That's why this person doesn't return my phone calls. You can come up with all sorts of stories, but it's the story. And we've got to backtrack to identify, well, where did that happen? Unpeel the layers of that story and almost recreate it in a way where you can see a different viewpoint and go, oh, okay, I interpreted it this way, but I could interpret it this way. I could forgive myself for not knowing that I could have asked for a different, you know, scenario or a different outcome. I could have asked for what it is that I needed. And sometimes it's just clarification for what it is that you just said, because it sounded really gnarly and nasty to me. Did you really mean to be nasty to me? But at 3 or 5 or 7, you don't have that
No,
vocabulary.
you don't have that toolkit either.
It's not in your toolkit. And your parents don't have the time to put that in your toolkit, because they didn't have it put in their toolkit when they were at that age.
Right.
So nobody knows, unfortunately, people don't know that they need to have that toolbox available, because the toolbox isn't available to them in the first place. And it gets passed on from generation to generation. So the first step is, here's a tool that you didn't know was available to you, and let's try to view it from a different aspect and see where, we can change the story. See, see if you can forgive yourself for not having those tools earlier. See if you can forgive, your friend that criticized you, because she didn't know she was criticizing you. She didn't know that that's the way that you would take it. If she would have known, then she would have done it differently, but she didn't know, or he didn't know.
Right. Right.
So it's forgiveness for self, it's forgiveness for others, and then recreate a different story. And so a
Yeah.
lot of the work that I do is about identifying where those stories started, and actually the energy work that I do helps to actually release that energy hold, because those emotions get trapped in our body. So if we can release it, the body's more free to move, the energy is more free to move, and then the choices are different, because that nagging pain isn't there to need comfort from the food that you eat. Or does it need comfort of running longer or riding longer or doing something else that's actually in one way positive, but in another way, when it's out of balance, it becomes a problem or a stressor on the body as well.
Right. Right. So let's talk about the energy healing really quickly, and then we'll go back to food, because now I'm on the energy healing question in my head.
It's probably everybody else is going there too.
Right. Okay. So there you go. So, you know, when, because I know I came to you because I wanted to have better digestion. I have, we know, well, now you and I know that gluten, even though I had thought it was problematic for me, it definitely is problematic for me. But, I still have sugar cravings, everybody. So we're going to work on that next time that I go to Joanna. But the energy aspect, when I came to you and you did some energy work, can you explain how that helps to recalibrate your nutrition choices and your body as well?
So I did two energy work things on you actually when you came in to see me. So one was through the nutrition response testing, where we were trying to identify where there is, I would call it like an energy short circuit in the body. And it's similar to like the meridians of acupuncture. But it turned out that, usually it's a chemical stress, food stress, heavy metal stress. There's one that's like pathogen stress. So it's like fungus, bacteria, viruses, and immune challenge. That's what it's called. And then the last one is scars. And even like the umbilical cord, that's actually considered a scar. So when we're under stress, sometimes those scars can reactivate. And in your case, we identified a scar. And as soon as I had mentioned it, you're like, oh my God, it's this, this, and this. And you gave me this whole background on some of the emotional things that were happening at that time when that scar was created.
Mm-hmm.
I ended up using the cold laser and worked on repairing that scar. And in your case, it worked like famously, like right then and there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way of the emotional part, where you were triggered by an event, and we work through that emotional issue
Yes.
just by you vocalizing. Sometimes just letting it out and talking about not feeling supported was enough to say to help you clear it. Plus we did the energetic with the laser. The other thing was when we were talking about the food aspects, as soon as I said something about, digestion, you're like, I haven't been able to digest life since I was 3, or I don't remember what age it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was something where like you already intuitively knew that there was a problem with digestion. And
Right.
it wasn't the physical digestion was being affected by other aspects that, based on this conversation, you had a hard time processing and accepting it as a truth, because it graded against part of what you believed.
Correct.
And so years go by where you're adding on to that belief and keep proving that that belief must be true, because all these things have happened to make it true.
Mm-hmm.
But somewhere deep down, you're like, but that still isn't right. That can't be right. It's still grating against you. So that was part of the energetic healing, was to work through that. And we actually did an oracle card reading with you to really work through that issue. And that's what I love about oracle cards, is they do that. They create the story for you, even though you might not know what it is.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was super, super cool.
Yeah. Well, and I find it super cool. And now it's something where I spend years actually myself fighting my own intuitive abilities. And I was a sensitive child, and those criticisms hit me hard, like horribly hard. And I developed other issues going on with that part, but it was, yeah, sugar was a mainstay in my life too, because that was the only thing that I felt sweet about myself, was when I would eat sugar. You know, because every time I turned around, the perfectionist family that I was in would never recognize that, oh, well, you know, you look great. No, they'd be looking for that one hair out of place instead. So I became my own best critic too. And then if I ate sugar, then I was obviously not a good person, because I'm doing this stuff that's not healthy. And it's, you know, and it just perpetuated this whole cycle of badness, so to speak.
Yeah.
That I had to work through and undo. And I think that adrenal exhaustion was that first time where I had to really sit down and go, who are you? What are you? What are you doing here? Why are you here? And the medical intuitive, the first thing that she said is, you've got to start seeing the beauty that's right around you.
Wow.
Take the blinders off. And so oftentimes now, it's 21 years later, and there are times where I'm like, look for the beauty. It's all around you.
That little voice, that little remembrance.
Yeah.
Basically, you're saying that we have these emotions, and then we make food choices, and the food choices are actually really a reflection of how well or how poorly we think of ourselves.
Yes. That's pretty much exactly what I'm saying. And Doreen Virtue actually wrote a whole book. I don't know if you're familiar with Doreen Virtue.
I am.
But Doreen Virtue was a very, very spiritual, very much, she wrote a book called Constant Cravings. And it was the reason why we crave certain foods is because we lack self-love for certain aspects of self. So if you're craving chocolate, then, and then she has different forms of chocolate too, but typically for craving chocolate was disappointment in your love life.
Really?
And I was like, well, there you go. I've always had a disappointing love life. And my love life with myself was the other disappointment. You know, when I really looked deeper, it was my love life with me that was causing the biggest disappointment. Because the less I loved me, the less the others would reflect what I was feeling about me. And so they would be like, yeah, not worthy, gotta go. You know, nah, this isn't working, gotta go. And so I always viewed it as I'm not good at relationships, but it's really, I'm not good at self-love relationships. Like, I gotta love me in all aspects of me, and that sensitive side that needs to ask for help. But I just use food as my help.
Right. So this is perfect for how do we eat in a way that reflects that we love ourselves? How do we mindfully do this?
You hire me?
Yay, done. I'm okay.
That's one way. Yeah, there's 1,000 different ways for 1,000 different people. And so a lot of times when I'm working with clients, it's really meeting them where they are. And it's not giving them like sugar is bad, don't do this. Because as you well know, we've been told that all through our lives, don't do blah, blah, blah. And we're like, ooh, let's go do it and
I
see what
gotta do it.
Let's get away with it. You know, I was also raised Catholic, so very, very strict and very, very rule based.
Right.
So the more rules you have, the more you want to get away with breaking those rules. So a lot of my work is really about eliminating those rules and starting to actually pay attention to, how do you feel when you're actually eating that food?
Mm.
Let's take a pause and see if you can actually really enjoy that chocolate chip cookie. No, I mean, really get the huge, like, enjoy the chocolate chip cookie. And some people will suddenly be like, I'm not enjoying that. Or they'll notice that a couple hours later, they're not enjoying how they're feeling
Right.
based on that, you know? And it could be even sooner than that, or it could be a little bit longer than that. But it's understanding, how do I feel about this particular food? And does it really give me what it is that I'm looking for? So it's working through every single person's issues as they are that particular day when I'm talking with them. But it's just starting to be a little bit more aware of what is happening. And when those things come up, the first thing is really breathe.
Mm.
Because when you're in your head and it is racing all over the place and it's giving you all different directions, you need to calm it down so that you can feel grounded, connect with the heart and say, okay, what is it that I really need? What is it that I really want? And then the challenge is, you got to listen, because the mind will keep going and go, no, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. No, you can't do that. No, that's stupid. Don't do that. Nobody's going to believe you if you do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's starting to pay attention to those aspects.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is how you make the process easier and not so tedious for me as a client. Because if you had overwhelmed me with, a 50-page whatever and said, okay,
Here, do these.
fun with that,
Yeah.
that wasn't going to work.
Yeah, and I did actually, I think I gave this to you, as you might be able to see that.
Yes.
But it's the practical steps to mindful eating.
Mhm.
And most of what I do is about practicality. Like, if
Yes.
it's not going to work in your schedule or with who you are, how you are, then it's not going to work.
Right.
I could give you all sorts of things, but if you'll be like, I'm not eating broccoli, I can't eat it, then I'm not going to keep saying, but broccoli is really good for you. We have to kind of meet you where you are.
Right. Right.
So even with the practical steps, it is practical. Take one thing to do. Start paying attention to, where is it that you're eating? Are you eating in front of the TV? You're eating in front of your computer. You're eating through lunch. Just start being aware of that. And maybe that's the only thing that you need. But not everybody that I give this to, I have 5 steps here, or is it 6? 6 steps. I just have them pick one. Like, this is
Mhm.
the one that you need right now to really focus on.
Mhm.
Feel free to read any of the other ones whenever you master that one.
Mhm.
But I'm here to be the guide to help you to work through whatever's going on. And just being aware of, how are you even eating your food when you're sitting in front of the computer
Mhm.
or when you're eating in front of the TV? And what's the most common response, do you think, that people give me when I ask them, well, do you even remember what you ate?
No, they would say, I have zero recollection of what order I ate the food in. I have zero recollection of what it tasted like,
And
because,
I have
you
zero
and I
recollection
both
of what
know
it was.
your brain cannot multitask. Everybody
Correct.
says we multitask. We don't. We can do one task or another really, 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 really quickly, switch, but you do not have a microprocessor in your head, people. I'm really sorry to tell you that. So if you're hyper
When I
focused
first
on something, you cannot be aware of the other thing.
Right. So if you're being distracted with the
TV and
computer,
whatnot,
then
right?
you're not really focusing on enjoying your food.
Right.
You're not enjoying, you're not actually enjoying the what you're doing either.
Right.
And sometimes that's the thing that ends up coming surfacing is the food is a reflection of there's no joy in your life.
Mm,
So if you're not enjoying whatever it is, then food isn't enjoyed either, and it's shoveled in a lot of times. It's the cover up. It's the search for something joyful. But if you're eating what you have deemed as the wrong food, or the bad food, then now you're creating a whole nother pattern to make you feel bad about yourself, so that your self-love diminishes a little bit more instead of growing. So it's unraveling those layers, which is what I do, so that you can
mm,
get to that place where, okay, this is the core of the issue. And I call it an issue rather than the problem. It's an
right.
issue. You know, these other things are symptoms, but what's really the driver?
Hmm.
And then we put you in the driver's seat so that you can, like, oh, if I start paying attention to this and noticing it, then I have a chance to change the outcome.
Exactly. So I do have to say that before my first session with you, you asked me to fill out a very detailed intake form, which, I've done intake forms for doctors before, and some of them are very detailed, so I kind of expected that. But the one thing that you gave me other than that was a food diary. And one of the things I noticed immediately the first day, I was like, my gosh, I eat a lot of food. Like I was constantly, I didn't eat what I thought my body, what my body would have or what my mind would have said to eat right then. But what I noticed that first day is that when I gave myself time to digest in between these meals, I actually felt better even before I started my program with you because there was a level of awareness there that
Hmm.
I just did not have.
Yeah. And that's what the food logs, they're very telling. And I still remember, even, I tell most of my new clients, I said, you're just tracking your food for 2 to 4 days. I don't, and I hate saying I don't care, but I really don't care what you write down. I just
Mhm.
want it to be accurate so that we can actually be able to see what the patterns are.
Right.
I'm one of the most empathetic, compassionate people out there. And I want you to know that this is a safe space so you can talk about anything.
Mhm.
So I want those food logs to just be reflective of what's really going on, you know? And when I see the food logs and then pair it with what you told me and filling in the gaps in our first session, then I'm like, I get a better picture and go, okay, I thought it was this, and this, but really this is the thing that's standing out as the
Yeah.
thing that we need to work on first, because that's part of that foundation that you think is solid, but it's a little on shaky ground. So
Mhm.
we've got to build that foundation a little bit more solid, peel off those layers of um, self blame and self criticism so that we can move forward towards more self love and awareness of, oh, my body really wants these foods instead of what I've been giving it. How
Yeah.
about that? But without the judgment. That's the
Right.
key part too, is when I work with clients, I want to eliminate those judgments. And those self judgments have been put in place because of all those criticisms from childhood. So then we get so criticized that we become our own best critic. Not a, that's really not a,
Yeah, it's a whole fun little cycle there. So, let's
yeah.
talk about, we talk about when you work with clients. Let's talk about how you work with clients. So, let's talk about the programs and the support platforms that you have for your clients. So, I do private sessions with you, and I purchased a package because I came to you. I wasn't, this is the weird thing. I'm taking a whole different coaching, and the coaching was like, "Hey, you don't know how good you can feel. Go to a nutritionist and just see what's going on. You know, just try it out." And then we got in there and, we've talked about a little bit what happened. I was like, oh, I have to come back. So, talk about please your sessions and, how they work.
So my main program is called Be Whole, because it's all about creating wholeness, and the wholeness of body, mind, and soul. And it's not just the physical, it's the physical, emotional, spiritual, mental. So, if you think of it as a stool with four legs, one of those legs is a little shaky, the other three are going to try to make up for it, but then they become a little bit too rigid, and so something eventually can break. So it's about finding, okay, well, where is there too much rigidity, or where is there not enough emphasis? Like there's that, finding that balance point.
Mm-hmm.
So in my sessions, it starts out quite often with a deeper dive into the nutrition part, because how you're feeding yourself, what you're feeding yourself, how you're managing or mismanaging that blood sugar. Once we can balance that in 2 or 3 sessions, then we can start digging into more of the other things that are happening. And I have a client that's been seeing me now for 8 months now. No, maybe at least 8 months. And for a while there, her sleep issue, the sleep kept coming up as an issue, and it was at a certain time of night, and it was, based on Chinese astrology or Chinese medicine, that meridian is, I think it was about the liver, and it was about communication. She's got a twin sister. Well, there was some communication mishaps going on with the sister, and she was taking on all the energy of the sister, and it would wake her up at that 2 o'clock in the morning. I actually saw her today, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sleeping fine now. I'm sleeping totally through the night, and it's all gone." It took 2 or 3 layers to get to it, but yeah, that's no longer an issue. But it took 4 sessions to even be able to get to that layer.
Right.
So it's working through the nutrition first, identifying where some of those emotional attachments or those emotional intruencies or incongruencies are, and do some of the emotional work and the energy work to clear them, so that you can become more aware of what your body wants you to do. I almost said what you're supposed to do, and I'm like, no, it's what your body wants you to do.
Right.
There's no supposed to's in this life. That's what's gotten us into such trouble, is that you're supposed to. No, you're supposed to just be you, right?
Right.
It's listening to what the body is asking of you. And that's where we learn to disconnect from that. And I am here to help you reconnect to that. So there's always nutrition, energy work, spiritual work, emotional work in every single session. And it just depends on what comes up in that session and what your body's ready for. I just happen to be the intuitive that can identify what that is and ask the right questions so that surfaces, and then we go from there.
Yeah. It was really, really great.
Yeah.
And you also have a website, and on your website you have over 400 blogs, and they're separated into different categories. So there's so much information right there. Can you tell us about that?
So the blog posts are a lot. Oftentimes it's, my own experiences or the client's experiences that I want to document and share the insights that have been received, so that people can get an idea of, well, you've got a question about X, Y, and Z. One of my most popular blog posts is actually the difference between low blood sugar and dehydration. And I would have never thought that would have been one of the high ones, but it is. And the next one is all about anti-inflammatory diet and how to incorporate an anti-inflammatory diet. Because as we get older, we do really need to work through including less inflammatory foods so that the body can thrive better.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But yeah, there's a lot of things on that website. You can there's actually there's categories, and there's also just, you can search for recipes, you can search for topics, and you'll find quite a bit on there.
Perfect.
And
And
if there's
that's nutrition.
anything that anybody wants to learn about, they can always contact me too.
Oh, there you go. And your website is, and we're going to have this information on the end of this video, but it's nutritioninmotion.com.
.net.
.net.
If you get
Okay.
if it's not .net, you'll get either Des Moines, Iowa, or New Hampshire.
Okay.
There are other nutrition emotions in this
Oh,
country.
so I'm glad I got it wrong so that we pointed that out.
Yes, nutritioninmotion.net. There's also a 15-minute chat button on the landing page, I guess you call it, the homepage, where if you actually fill that out, I can share with you the practical steps to mindful eating and actually identify which one is best for you based on what it is that you want to share with me and
Oh,
what your situation is.
nice. Nice.
Yeah.
And that's very helpful. Everyone, I can vouch for that.
Yeah. You don't have to do all 6 things, I swear. Just pick one. And I'm going to help you pick the one.
Right. Right. Oh, Joanna, this, who would have thought there, well, you did, but not me. Who would have thought that there would be, okay, we're going to talk about nutrition, and then we're going to talk about emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, and then we're going to talk about food, and then we're going to talk about childhood, and then we're going to talk about limiting beliefs. And, it's all wrapped up into one. But honestly, I can say from where I sit, when we had my first appointment, and you found that scar on your own, and there was so much baggage around that. I mean, it was life changing just to get that awareness, because even if I want to go back to that patterning to
Right.
reactivate that scar, I know now, like, don't go there, you don't have to, where before I wasn't even aware that I was going.
Right. Yeah. And that's the fun of working with me, like the whole session, the whole package. The beginner, the base package is what you started with. That's what I suggest people start with, because it's a great starting place to help you feel better quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you exactly what's going to go on in every single session, because every client is different and every client presents something different. And every session that you come in, even if I have 5 clients that have the same thing, they all have GI distress, let's say, which I do a lot of work with. Each one is still going to present with a whole different array of why is this happening? So it's identifying what is the starting point. And you don't have to be reading 10,000 books to get an idea of what's going on. You don't have to do all this research. I've done that already. I've already done a lot of that legwork, and I've done it myself. So I know that some of these things work and some of these don't. And then I have some clients where I don't want to say their biology is reversed, but some things work and some things work exactly the opposite of what they were meant to do. Well, okay, so if this one, I had one client where she took something for adrenal support, and that put her to sleep, and then she took something else for helping her sleep, and that woke her up. I'm like, well, this is exactly backwards, so let's just switch it. And that's just how some people are.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't always know right at the beginning, but I've done this enough that I now know which tests to kind of run and how to ask my intuition to tap into your intuition to know, okay, well, what does her body need today? Does she need it here or there? Does it, do we do it by food first, or do we have to have a supplement? And it's always food first, but that's where the Be Whole base program, it's a great place to start. And I have some clients that have been working with me for 2-3 years because they get so much benefit out of the sessions, and they're able to deal with stress in such a different way that the stress is no longer a stress. And that's what I love to see, because nobody needs to be in the adrenal exhaustion place that I was, or get anywhere close to it. That was miserable.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I've never been diagnosed with that, but I can imagine. Well,
That was a life-changing thing, because you go from athlete to you're not an athlete. But I had done everything as an athlete, and that's what I associated myself with. And at that moment, I was like, you are not an athlete. Then who are you? And that was the beginning of how I created this whole program.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful one. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for creating the program. And thank you for joining us today. And again, your information is going to be connected with this video so people can find you. But I want to just say, I treasure all of your insights and your wisdom, which have been so very informative for us all. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome, and I feel blessed to even be here to share with you. And thank you so much for asking.
Oh, you are so welcome. And I know there are other topics for us to discuss in other episodes of the
Arena?
Happiness Retreat. So
Yeah.
promise me you'll come back.
Oh, I promise you I will come back. You might have to beg me not to come at some point because I'll be coming back.
That works for me. And to everyone watching, thank you for joining us for this episode of the Happiness Retreat. We both hope that you have gotten some inspiration, some motivation, some guidance, and some clarity in your connection with your soul and becoming the master of your own energy. So, until next time.
Blessings to
Bye.
all.